I require money community.
I'm a problem. Equally, brand of white of Kedima. Problem are still there. Kedima. Ikyabu China, Samba, because the power over and this the white Mapo Muntu, the Rice back to the Muntu, and you remember not keeping a single day by some Rice will pay back to the Muntu, and we know. So let me share.
Okay. All right. So with the question on health problems, he says they have not really done full investigation, especially to see at which extent, but the likely possibility of having health problems is actually very high, and there's need for, I think, the government and pretty much people in the health sector to just have, I think, samples taken from people in this community. Has there been any compensation kuperwa indalama within waekata nabo
Apa mtu ya kuitanshi chilefwa iba festi ilo wale pela compensation umuntu ba mpima ashwa kukumbi wakwe kukumbi wanyu bisha ina mbara mpela compensation chapa wa ishwa status within tudi leo na mbare pela nani compensation issue bino no back pela compensation ya wishwe ki masoshi na mbele na mbya ye vitu hapo mais compensation ya bombeji.
All right. So he's merely highlighting that compensation, firstly, but Okoya didn't
compensation ya
Okoya didn't
compensation ya 2019 tayari bino na Okoya tayari bino. So number apa ya 2025 tayari hapo.
All right. So he highlights that there was a form of compensation in 2019, but it was not enough. And also he has a key point saying for a person or people to be compensated, they should run tests to see the extent at which their lives have been affected. It might be their surroundings, it might be their personal health. Then actually have a form of compensation that actually caters for that particular damage that has been actually done. And also, to other panelists, do you have anything you could add to, especially the questions that have been asked to Mr. Peter Lange?
Yeah, thank you very much. As earlier mentioned, my name is Caesar Kateme, coming from Zambia Alliance of Women as Programs Manager. There are quite grave concerns that we have noted regarding the collapse of the dam in Changishi by Sino Metals, as well as discharge of effluents by Romjin. And as Zambia Alliance of Women, we support from our partners, Center for Transnational Environmental Accountability, CTA, as well as Agent Action Fund, Southern African Trust. We are cognizant of some of the challenges that communities are grappling with. First of all, as alluded by a community victim of these human rights violations, we are seeing with great concern the extent to which these are having a toll on their lives. This number one. For example, yes, we are alive to the fact that the report that has just been released by the US Embassy in Finland speaks to some of our concerns that we've always spoken to as a coalition. Especially that there has not been a comprehensive study and not even a proactive action to hold these multinationals accountable. And this clearly speaks to why, as a country, we've lagged behind in terms of regulatory failures that has compounded all these problems that we're speaking to. Most importantly, we have seen complacency on the part of the the regulators, Mines Safety Department, as well as ZEMA, in terms of enforcement mechanisms. And when you look at the livelihood disruptions that will come as a result of this spillage, the collapse of the dam and discharge of effluents by Longji, and clearly now we are seeing the things that have been spoken to in terms of presence of heavy metals. Because we said even earlier that it's not just a discharge of acidic effluent of 50 million liters into the pristine Kafue River basin. We were also cognizant that we also needed to take stock of the presence of heavy metals in the pristine Kafue River and also the downstream effects. Speaking to the communities, you will see that one of our members in Kalusal, Evelyn June, she developed rash when she used water from a water well which she had dug. And little did she know that the water well was contaminated. When she bathed that water, she developed, even now, she keeps on developing rash, despite having gone to the hospital to look for medication and support in terms of health concerns that you addressed. So this rash is recurrent. Every time this woman goes to the hospital and asks for medication, she applies rash on the other side, the rash will come on from the other side. So, rightly so, as the victim of this human rights violation has pointed out, there is no comprehensive health assessment that has been done to speak to the lives of the communities in terms of their health.
Right, thank you so much. These questions are specifically aiming to have a legal point of view, so there will be aimed at Mr. Matsuli Alisa. What laws in Zambia protect the environment and regulate mining, and how do they apply in this case?
Okay, thank you. I think I'll start by saying we do not have a shortage of laws in this country that regulate mining. I think with regards to this case, I would rather speak from a public health and an environmental point of view because the disaster has already happened. The mining regulations have already been breached. You can talk of the Mines and Mineral Development Act. I think there's gone a lot of amendments, and right now there's some amendments taking place at the moment. But looking at a situation like this, the Mines and Minerals Development Act makes it an offense to discharge, when I say poisonous effluent into a river, or into a major river or a major water body in this country. And such an offense carries the sentence of up to 10 years in prison. That's what the Mines and Mineral Development Act says. If you go to the Environmental Management Act, again, there are criminal sanctions to the discharging of effluent into a major river. And it also provides a lengthy prison sentence along with a fine, right? But if you go into the Constitution, the constitutional framework, like we mentioned, Article 255, contains what is called the polluter pays principle, which is also carried in also the Section 6 of the Environmental Management Act. So the polluter pays principle simply states that a person or an entity that causes damage to the environment has to pay for its remediation and have to pay in full. So if you look at our legal framework, there are civil sanctions, which is the remediation cost and compensation. And also there are criminal sanctions, and there is nothing that stops the government from pursuing both. But in this case, when we're talking about heavy metal poisoning, this is quite serious because of the health impacts that come with heavy metal poisoning. And at this point, I think the Public Health Act has to come in and issues to do with handling public health have to step in, and the authorities dealing with public health have to come into this case to ensure that there's a cleanup and to assess the risk of people's exposure to these heavy metals.
All right. Thank you so much. So, what responsibility does Sino Metals have under the Zambian and international law, and what legal options do the affected communities have for getting compensation or justice?
Can you come again?
So, okay, what legal responsibility does Sino Metals have under the Zambian and international law, and what do affected communities have? What legal options do affected communities have to get compensation or justice?
Okay. As I've already said, in as far as the polluting companies are concerned, it's not only Sino Metals in this case. There is also Rongjing Mining, who also released some effluent into the Mwambashi stream. So, in as far as the legal responsibility, it's good that the company has already accepted responsibility for this. So, as I've mentioned, that we have what is called the polluter pays principle in this country. So, what the companies are responsible for, they're responsible for paying for cleaning up or restoring the environment to what it was before this disaster. And they're supposed to meet the payment in full, right? And also, because there's a case of heavy metal pollution that we're talking about now, which is kind of expensive, or should I say very expensive. So the two polluting companies are responsible for paying for whatever costs might be incurred in cleaning up these heavy metals that have been deposited in the stream and in the community, and also to meet the health, or should I say the medical bills of anyone who might be affected by this. Also, they also have a responsibility to compensate in full the communities that are affected. And also, they also have the responsibility to pay punitive sanctions to the government of the Republic of Zambia and the people of Zambia. And also, there's also a criminal liability to this, as I've already mentioned. It is open for the government to pursue criminal sanctions. The law allows for that. So all those are legal liabilities that are there. And then in terms of the community, first of all, this is not just a community problem, it's a nationwide problem. If you look at Section 4 of the Environmental Management Act, it places a duty on every Zambian to cooperate with the state in protecting the environment. So it means you and I, everyone here has got a duty to help in safeguarding our environment. So in terms of the recourse that is there are a lot of angles, like I mentioned. There's a criminal route. Any member of the public can commence a private prosecution according to the Environmental Management Act. Again, any member of the community can commence a civil action to recover damages and to recover compensation for the community from the mining companies or from the polluters if they are found liable for polluting.
Thank you so much. All right, this question goes to Mr. Raymond Mutale. We haven't heard your voice. All right. So, what do the independent test results from the Finnish embassy show about the need for open and honest environmental reporting?
Thanks. Now you are hearing my voice. To begin with, this situation is very concerning, and it just re-emphasizes what we've always talked about, that these processes that lead into development, be it economic, mining, or any other process, should be anchored on strong governance mechanisms. And My discussion will be anchored on what I call the hardware of these processes, which is governance, because I know my colleague is very strong legally. My colleague is very strong in environmental issues, and that is the software of these processes. But I'll focus on the hardware, which is governance. Now, the report, first of all, exposes us as a country that we have weak oversight mechanisms. That's number one. And we need to be serious because there are lives involved in these issues. Serious in terms of strengthening institutions that should provide this oversight that we're talking about. Secondly, we need to ensure that all the players in these processes are not only responsive to government. First and foremost, they need to be responsive to host communities because government operates to serve the community. Investors operate to serve the community. And responsiveness should not only be the government. And you will agree with me that in terms of oversight, in terms of operational responsiveness, there are weaknesses. Most of the time, the communities are not availed with the results arising from monitoring some of these processes. And this is the issue that we are pushing and ensure that, first of all, the players are responsive, like I've said, to government, responsive to the communities. But also, because of the responsiveness, you see that information flows. You cannot hold anyone accountable out of ignorance. You need the information because the information then is the basis for you to start asking questions. Thirdly, we need to ensure that there is a deliberate move for communities to engage in meaningful and honest conversations with the operators, the players in these processes, but also responsible and meaningful conversations with government. Why should we have an external bring out the truth when we have mechanisms that should protect the people and bring out the information that is required for the people to make right decisions? And so for me, the issue here is this report exposes us and we need to rise as a country and ensure that we start working on strengthening the mechanisms that protect the environment but also protect the people that we are supposed to serve.
Right, very well articulated. For now, we'll take questions from the media, and